Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Vito x DINO podcast. This is episode number 79. Social Security age, huh? My name is Vito Delsante. His name is Dean Haspiel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dean Haspiel.
Dean, are you moving to LA?
No, wait, why?
Because Yancey
Oh,
Street is going west.
Yancey Street is going west. Uh, that's the Marvel news that we will pick up in a second, but I
Yeah.
did want to respond to 79. I, well, I was when I was born, I believe we were living at 73rd Street or something like that. But my childhood was spent at 230 West 79th Street
Hmm.
and Broadway in Upper West Side of Manhattan. So that gives us a little context for 79. But also, what do you mean retirement age?
I don't know, 75. There is no such thing as a retirement age anymore.
Not for us, but isn't it like 65 or 64, something like that?
It's definitely 75 or 70 or something like that at this point. I'll look it up while we're
But I
like,
mean in terms of like getting benefits or something or social
yeah, yeah,
security.
yeah.
I think it's like 65, which is I'm only 6 years away from making $1.50 a month.
67 if you were born in 1960 or later, which we were, and 66 if you were born earlier.
Really? Now, did you type retirement age or getting Social Security? That's what
I
I'm.
just wrote retirement age.
Oh, interesting. So, and by the way, retirement at that age?
You
Are you
can
kidding
claim your benefits as early as 62.
me? That's what I thought. But you get a reduction or something.
Right. But if you wait till 70, you can maximize your permanent monthly payments.
Interesting.
This is
Okay.
all pertinent conversation for a comic book podcast.
I mean, look at us, right? Come on.
Uh,
So, yeah, I guess going back to what your pithy little comment was the big news that Marvel is moving to Burbank down the block from DC Comics.
more important, maybe not more important. I think that's the headline. The byline is probably just as important, though, and it's that CB Cebulski is stepping down as editor in chief, and Steve Wacker, who we've both worked with in the past, is now the new editor in chief. So, congratulations to Steve. Very, very well deserved. Steve is a fantastic editor.
Steve's a
Fantastic.
great editor, and so CB, but CB was always international
Yes,
leaning, and
yes,
so he's going to, I think, lead their Marvel Asia department, as it
that's what
were.
I heard. Yeah,
And Steve Wacker, who the Spider-Man story I did for Spider-Man for the 50th anniversary issue was because of Steve Wacker. Steve
yeah.
Wacker, I was in his office. I was looking for work, and he looked at me and he's like, and this is like a year or so before the 50th anniversary. And I thought I had done the story, produced it, and it was never going to get published. And then
Hmm.
suddenly it winds up in. Anyway, he said to me, remember issue number 50 when Peter Parker quits being Spider-Man and throws his costume on a garbage can and is walking away in the cover? He said, what happened to the costume that night? And I was like, whoa. And he said, the only caveat is that you have to return the costume by morning because in continuity, a little kid finds it and takes it to the Daily Bugle and shows J.
Yes.
Jonah Jameson, whatever. So I came with this story. In fact, my original pitch included a fight with Sandman, but I only had 8 pages and it was a little too much.
Yeah.
So I made this quieter story. And then also, he hired me to draw a script written by Keith Giffen at DC Comics when he was at DC
Hmm.
for Justice League
Justice League Adventures.
Adventures. And I remember reading the script and going, "Oh my God, this is bulletproof! Like anybody could draw this.
Hmm.
Like that's how well written it was." And in the spirit, that's how I guess Keith Giffen wrote it.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Keith Giffen, a genius. So I'm really excited for Steve Wacker to take over the reins of Marvel, at least the publishing,
Hmm.
reins, because I feel like maybe I have another chance of doing another comic at
And
Marvel. Maybe you do,
it,
you
it
know.
should it should go maybe not without saying, but it should be reminded that Marvel recently restructured on the Disney end, and so I would imagine Steve would be reporting to Brad Winderbaum, who is now in charge of like a bunch of the umbrellas that include comics. So
Right. And I believe that was written in one of the articles. I don't know that person he would be reporting to, but I believe so. I think you're
yeah,
right. I did want to pick up on something from the last time we spoke,
yeah,
where the question was, who in comics would be worthy of picking up
Hmm.
Thor's hammer. And I don't know if you met this person. I did several times over the years. And I can't believe we forgot this one person,
Who?
Flo Steinberg.
Oh my God, yeah, you're right. That's easy.
Flo Steinberg,
That's an easy A right there.
right there. I mean, Stan Lee's Gal Friday, she was there all the time. And when I met her, her job was to read all the comic books before they went to final print,
That's
just to
amazing.
make sure, I guess, for continuity or grammar or make sure the story, I don't even know what,
What's
she'd be
weird
the
is
last set of eyes before it went to print.
when I met her, it wasn't under the auspices of being at the office or anything like that. I think it might have been at a signing or it might have been at the Marvel booth or something like that. And I have never met a more gracious and animated person. She was so fun to be around. And I mean, it was only for a couple minutes, and I'd seen her many times after that, but she was so much fun to be around. That yeah, like you're 100% right.
Well, she's a sweetheart. She had a soft tone about her,
Mhm.
very encouraging. No matter what, she was always happy to see someone or to see me, even if she met me once. And then the second time it was like a big hug.
Mhm.
And to put her in context, when Timely, I don't know if she worked for Timely before it
I
became
don't think
Marvel. I,
she
I
might have
don't
worked
know.
at uh Atlas. Might have
Oh,
worked when it was
okay.
Atlas.
The Monster Comics, but
Yeah.
she was like the one female that was listed in the roster of the very small roster of Marvel Comics, which I think the staff was like Stan Lee, Saul Brodsky, Flo Steinberg, and then the artists that were listed, like
Mhm.
Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, Don Heck, Gene Colan, kind of a thing. So John Romita, of course. Yeah, so it occurred to me after our last show, it's like, oh my God, like a shoe-in right there. Um, so yeah, I have down here that Marvel's moving to Burbank, California, which is like in some ways, I'm like,
I
no
have to
duh.
I have to
What?
give you this one little thing. Like I had to look it up real quick,
Hmm.
and before we moved on, um, this is how important Flo Steinberg is. If nothing that we've said touches upon it, closely. Marvel did an issue number 11 of What If. It's what if the Fantastic Four were replaced with
Oh yeah,
the Marvel bullpen became the Fantastic Four. Stan, Jack, Saul Brodsky, and Argyle Flo.
absolutely, absolutely. I
There you
remember
go.
that issue greatly because in a way, that might have been the last time Jack Kirby drew a version of the Fantastic Four.
Hmm.
Was that What If? Because I
Yeah.
think he had left the book, was doing covers at some point, went to DC, came back, and then they had this What If series. And I remember even when I read it the first time, I was like, "Who is Saul Brodsky?" At least I knew who Flo Steinberg was, but who is Saul Brodsky? What a name, too. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
that issue came out in 78, so that's around the time that Jack had come back to do Cap, I
well,
think.
well, he did Cap for 76,
Mhm.
the 200th anniversary, 1776 to 1976 for
Yeah.
Captain America, and then he did that What If probably like 2 years later. You
Yeah,
know,
and maybe around the time the Eternals series.
sure,
Hard,
yeah, yeah, that sounds
it's hard to
right.
really put everything into a historical context, but
And it's funny because I don't know if it was his idea or an editorial idea to include the Hulk in the issue of the Eternals, but like he was not messing around with continuity. He did not think about what's going on in Bill
yeah.
Mantlo and Sal Buscema's Hulk right now. So it turns out there's a robot Hulk. It's not even the real Hulk, kind of a thing. So, but yeah, that's big news. Um,
It's very, I don't want to say it's sad, but it's very disheartening that both Marvel and DC are not in the cities that birthed them.
well, well, one of the things that I'm going to take a bigger leap,
Hmm.
okay, which is yes, technically they still produce comic books, but what they're really producing is TV shows and movies now.
Yeah,
You know,
they're just IP farming their own stuff.
IP like a lot of other publishers are doing collections of Marvel stuff and maybe
Mhm.
some DC stuff. There was a rumor at one point that they were going to get like IDW or somebody was going to produce the comic books now. Then
Yeah.
there's another recent rumor about which I kind of agree with, which is like they won't publish floppies anymore, for lack of
Mhm.
a better term, but just go publish them as digital and then collect them as
Yeah.
print books kind of thing because it's expensive to produce a 20 to 24 page comic these days.
Around the time that we started this podcast, that was my plan for Stray, was to just do them digitally and then do the trades. It's hard to with the audience that we have, that are looking at books as kind of a not a luxury item, but a kind of event in itself. Like, oh, Dean's coming out with another antimatter, like it's an
Mm,
event. It's
mm,
not like you're always lamenting that you're not in the stores anymore, and it's like it's not like you can go to the store and get this monthly or something.
right,
So it
right.
does become an event comic in a sense. So the I think that our audience in particular, if we went digital and then they had to wait, like it might work against us. The thing is, with most Marvel and DC, maybe even Dark Horse and Image, you can lump into that. Um, most people are reading those digitally. Like I
Hey,
think,
listen, we offer, I believe you have too, a digital version of
always.
your Kickstarter comics, right? So anybody who doesn't want to deal with, storing another floppy or a book or whatever, and yet I don't know how. I mean, are people buying a lot of hard drives so they can download these comics? You
Can
know?
I tell you, funny enough, I have four right in front of me.
Wow,
Not to store comics, mind you. I mean, to store the comics that I'm making.
that you're
But
creating. In
but
fact,
yeah,
I got an email alert from Zion Studios that I'll be getting my new copy of Stray in the mail any minute now.
yeah,
How about that?
that's a positive.
So
That's
that's issue number
free.
3.
And then we're
Out
hoping
of how many is the arc?
it's eight. But what we're going to do is we're going to split it to kind of maximize the. This is going to sound awful, but you understand what I'm saying. To maximize the potential of making money to fund the future issues, we're going to split the trade paperback in two. So it's going to be volume three, part one, and then volume three, part two. So um, we're going to try to get number four done by the end of the year, like kickstarted and everything. Have that shipped, and then mid next year probably do um, the trade for all four,
Well,
first four.
to be even more of a jerk, what if you the next Kickstarter, if you're going to split it in half, would be the book that
Yes.
contains issue 4. That's what you're talking about.
Oh, we could. I mean, I think that's a little disingenuous.
But then you're doing this. You're putting out issue 4, and then how much longer are you waiting to put out that collection?
A couple months probably. The
That's what I
problem
mean.
the problem
And
with
then
doing what you're suggesting is that undercuts the people that have bought the individual issues and like just like takes it out. Like the point is that we want to try to get a trade into stores and
oh, you
maybe
mean this is more for store
right.
objects? And would you?
Probably still kickstart it, just for printing costs,
But let me help you. I mean, again, don't listen to me because I know what I'm doing. But I think that what I might do is if you're splitting it from 1 to 4 and 5 to 8, volume 3, and you're
Mhm.
calling out that technically, I don't think anybody, unless you're dealing with like super fans, are going to care as much. Um, if you call that volume 3.1 a title, and then 3.2 give it another title, so and maybe do another issue 1 instead of it being issue 5. But is it really like a cliffhanger and you have to, it's like literally issue 5 from 4 to 5? Or can you
I
rejigger 5 to be like part 2 but starting with issue 1?
issue four ends on a pretty big cliffhanger.
Okay.
So like you can't really, yeah. I mean, like
Huh.
I see what you're saying, but like I think,
I'm
like I
just talking
said,
about, like, again, the value of marketing and getting new readers at jumping
hmm.
on point. I mean, Marvel and DC do it every week. they
I mean,
they
we could.
renumber.
The renumbering doesn't bother me um, as much as like not printing. the floppy for issue 4, if that makes sense. Like I don't mind renumbering and just saying, like it's 3 point whatever. But then you're getting into like a lot of parsing and
Well,
set.
and also I'm thinking about titles. Like for instance, when we did 2 miniseries for Harvey Picar's American Splendor at DC Vertigo, I remember I didn't. Well, did they know they were doing a second series? Maybe they did. So the first volume collected was called Another Day, and I thought, oh, okay, that kind of works for a Harvey Picar kind of comic.
Mhm.
And then when they collected the second volume, it was called Another Dollar, and I'm like, you did not plan that. Another Day, Another
That's
Dollar, and
pretty
they
great
both
though.
work. They both work, solo, right?
Yeah,
But I was like, are you kidding me? Anyway, maybe something like that you could do with Straight Volume 2. Oh, what do you got?
I started doing the flats on my
Oh boy.
cover, my Kirby. Speaking of Kirby,
Yep.
the Kirby homage of issue, I think that's 200 of Captain America.
So Vito is showing us on the screen for you YouTubers
Oh, for the
that watch.
Spotify listeners.
Yeah, exactly. This is why you go watch us on YouTube.
Mhm.
That looks great so far.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks.
a big fan of the color yellow. You know I am.
I do,
So
and I mean the original. If I switch over, does have a yellow. I mean, that's my treatment
oh
there.
right, that's it. Yeah, yeah,
But like,
exactly.
yeah, like just trying to match everything up and everything.
And I told you because you had asked me to maybe ink this, but the pencils were so tight
Yeah,
that I'm sure Matt just tweaked them and blackened them in, and boom, they're
probably.
done.
I mean, he also,
You know.
if let me reshare it for a second. Um, there was a character, his character, Punk Monkey, in this the spot of the Falcon that
Oh,
we've
okay,
decided because his Punk Monkey story wasn't going to be ready, we're going to put in uh, Stray's dog, who is actually in the story.
got it, got it.
So
Okay, that's
Sam's on the
cool.
cover. And
Are you
then,
going to keep it flat and pop it like that?
yep,
I like that, man. As long as you
yeah,
get the
I do
right
too.
color. I'm coloring something right now that I'm having a really tough time with, but I'm hoping I'll find it. That I'll share with you later.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
But yeah,
it's
I'm going to keep it flat. I mean, that's the cover C cover, like ABC. That's
right,
probably the one that I am going to only, maybe possibly only bring it to, um, not bring the other two covers. I mean, just bring this to
right.
Baltimore just because it's such a special looking cover. It'll stand out.
It's great. It's
But
great. I love it.
that's neither here nor there. That's still up for.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if you want to get to. I have some other things I want to talk about, obviously, but
I want to ask you a question about. So yesterday, Dean, I was in Brooklyn, funny enough, meeting up with my sister at Industry City, which is a fantastic mall type of area.
you go to St. Mark's Comics,
I did. I got to see Mitch, and we went to St. Mark's.
right?
But fantastic food, like
Did
just
Did you happen just real quick, and we'll I'll put a pin in it for later.
yeah,
But do you know what the place is right next to it?
next to St. Mark's,
Yeah.
the record store, or the Brooklyn store.
No, right next to it is it's kind of like a theater and a
Oh yes,
gallery,
you're right. Yes.
and that's where Tommy was all the time. And we'll get to
Wow,
Tommy.
that's
So
crazy.
you are right next to anyway.
So
So you see your sister.
while I was in Brooklyn, I knew Dean was flying in, so I was super. Me and Michelle were both really concerned because there's no sky currently in New York. Like there's Canadian wildfires for those not on the East Coast that are affecting the air quality and the visibility of, like, to the point where I saw a picture from Philadelphia. Like Philadelphia was playing the Mets last night in Philadelphia, and you could see the entire skyline of Philadelphia a year ago, and then last night it was just white. Like it's
Yeah.
just, you can't, and it's not smog per se. It's just it's just covering the sun. The sun was hard.
It's like it's technically, I guess it's smoke, but like particles.
Yeah.
I got home from Florida from visiting my mom. We'll get to that in a minute. And then like Janet's telling me wear a mask. I'm like,
Hmm.
what's going on? And like, I kind of don't watch the news when I go away. I try not to
Yeah.
watch the news when I'm at home. but I tend to. So I was like, okay. And then I wanted to come to the studio for a little while to work on this thing I'm trying to finish. And I was riding my bike and I was like coughing and stuff
Yeah.
because little bits were getting into my throat. And I was like, geez, Louise. And then they did do this is how bad it was in 2023. I don't know if you remember when we had, I think it was another Canadian wildfire or
It wasn't
something,
Canadian, it was Californian, I think.
California, and the sky became orange like an
Yeah.
apocalypse.
Like
And they said
compensation.
that the air quality was like almost at 500. And I think the air quality this time around is like two something, like 250 or whatever, you know? So it was half. Right now it's half of what it was
Like
before.
I think about this and I think about like how industry and businesses and companies and corporations clearly do not care about the impact they have on life. You know what I mean? Like, not that, look, a fire is a fire. I get it. You know, that's natural. It's not, but there are conditions that I'm sure some corporation we could point to AI and data centers using up water. And
But that's recent. I mean, this has been going on
but
for
what I'm saying
forever.
is that like there's also dumping and there's also it's we've made the environment hostile, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like,
And I listen, I just came from Florida where you would think, or at least as a visitor, I'd be like, oh, you should go to the beach every day if you can, right?
yeah,
No, no, you shouldn't,
yeah,
because it is hostile. And that's why a lot of people are in their homes in central air conditioning or whatever the hell they call that,
yeah.
like to survive, like bubbles.
So yeah, so we were concerned for your flight because we weren't sure what you were flying into in terms of visibility with the pilots and all that stuff. But like I texted Dean, I was like, "You home?" He's like, "I've been home for an hour." And I was like, "All right, good."
Yeah. Oh, that's what that was about. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. We just want to make sure you were all right.
Yeah, that I was right. Well, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
of
that.
course.
And speaking of texting, and we're going to jump around here. Do you
Mhm.
want me to share the text you
Yeah,
sent to me?
yeah. Go ahead.
So you texted me, I think it was last night,
Last night.
uh, and basically verbatim, you said, and it got me thinking too. All right. Remind me of this thought. I'm watching Bourdain, and I almost started crying when I realized that all of his knowledge just left with him. I get that there is a document of his experiences, books, shows, etc., but it's not the same thing. The things he learned, the way he learned them, will never be learned again. And it was an interesting thought. And we're talking about Anthony Bourdain, the guy who he was a chef, right?
He was a celebrity chef. He was kind of like known for being like in the 80s for being this kind of outlaw in kind of the food, like not the food industry, but you know, the restaurant industry, where his kitchens weren't the same. He was high on cocaine, chain smoking, doing all these, you know, things that chefs typically didn't do.
And he
Uh,
did an episode with Harvey Pekar in Ohio,
mhm.
and they went and like ate donuts or something and all kinds of stuff. But it's funny because I never really watched his show, and I do know that I believe Jonathan Bankin, my editor at Vertigo, did a graphic novel or something, I
Yeah,
believe, with
Get Hito or something, I think it's called.
yeah, yeah. So, but
That
you were
I
watching,
think
I guess, an
they're,
episode.
yeah, just for the sake of posterity, I believe they've already announced they're going to do either a television show or a movie of Get Jito. And there is going to be a movie called Tony, based on Kitchen Confidential, his book of how he came up in the industry,
Right,
coming out in August, which I'm very interested in. I
right.
It's weird. I Michelle has met him or had met him a couple of times through her job when we were living in New York, and I'd never met him. I have no um, personal tie to him, but I was saying to her at one point, we were watching the show, and it's Parts Unknown was the name of the show. It was on CNN, and we were on Pluto TV, and it had like a whole CNN specials or CNN series, and so we watched like four in a row. And I had said to him, like, it's very weird that I still feel his loss
Mhm.
because it was 2018 that he passed away, that he hung himself, unfortunately, in Paris. Um, And I feel his loss the way I feel the loss of Prince or David Bowie, in like this profound sense of, not that they were tastemakers or anything like that, because they were, but because they contributed so much to the world at large, whether it be exposing a restaurant you'd never heard of before or a certain gastronomic invention or something, in Bourdain's case. Um, Music, obviously, with Prince and David Bowie, maybe a little bit of Darwin Cook in there as well, who I knew, but my interactions with him were limited to conventions or signings and stuff like that.
Darwin Cook, the great late cartoonist,
Yeah,
obviously. I think what
and
you're reacting to a little bit, if I may,
yeah,
is not just their contributions, but honestly, their point of view.
yeah,
Like they're great musicians, great singers, great tastemakers or artists, but literally they had a point of view. You could see it in Darwin Cook's line work. You
mhm,
can hear it in Prince and David Bowie's music, and you can understand it in Bourdain's understanding of food or
yeah.
what or experience, and the fact that they were able to articulate and impart that to us, to people, is I
So,
think part of what you're saying.
so I'm watching the show, and you could just see him, like whenever the camera is on him. Obviously, it's a trick of editing, perhaps, but I don't think what I'm about to say is a trick of editing. It just is what it is. You can see him absorbing something, like absorbing some kind of fat. Because Parts Unknown, the basis of the show is that he travels to different places. The ones that we saw were Santa Fe, New Mexico, Sicily. Sicily was a rough one to watch. Um, Tokyo, and Copenhagen. And the one about Sicily that's rough is that it's around his birthday, and he's in the ocean, and he's just floating on the water, and he's just talking about his depression, just like, to the point where he's narrating post, filming, and he's saying something to the effect of, like, while he's at dinner, he's like, I had been drinking all day because it was my birthday and I was depressed. I'd been drinking all day, and here I am drinking more. I don't remember this dinner at all. And the thing is, you're watching him, and he's so cogent and so like coherent and engaged. And it's like, Jesus, like this dude, like just felt like the way he felt, and like was able to just, number one, depression is the craziest thing, because like people don't look like they're depressed. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, and
it's almost
they're,
like a drown victim. When somebody's
yeah,
drowning, they're not screaming and splashing. Half the time, or most of the times, they're just trying to keep their head above water, and you don't notice. And
all the
and then
kicking underneath.
they're kicking underneath because they're frozen by fear or whatever's
Mhm.
going on. And yeah, I mean, you suffer depression, right? Don't you take meds for that?
Yep.
So,
And
so I think that's also another thing you're responding to here.
probably like a pathos, like a relating to him in that respect.
Do you
And
think, and this is gonna forgive the question
no, no,
because it's a morbid question. Do you think if you weren't married and had children that you'd still be here?
I don't think I would have made it to 53. I think I would have made it a little bit further than that. I don't know that 2007 is when Michelle and I got together. I don't know that had we not gotten together, I wouldn't have lived into the 2020s or anything. But I don't think I would have had a very good quality of life at the very least.
Yeah,
I mean, like, it's a struggle no matter what, like it's still, but the thing about being with Michelle, and I think this is probably even more important, she's not only like my wife and my best friend and the mother of my children, and the the urge, like the push I need to go. She is my biggest supporter in terms of like my comics, in terms of being creative, in passing that down to our kids, in terms of a bunch of different ways. She funded Stray, the first miniseries, basically, um, other than the first issue. So she's like my biggest cheerleader. She's like an Ivan Reitman to my Harold Ramis. Like she is the most supportive producer I could ask for. Um, but also, more importantly, within all of that, now add to the fact that she was the one that said, you need to talk to somebody about how you're feeling. And so she urged me to talk to the doctor. The doctor started prescribing me meds. Some worked, some didn't. When they didn't, and I had like a really bad reaction, she was the first, I was the first one I told because I now trusted her enough that I could go, this isn't working for me. All right, let's go to the doctor and get something different. And now like my meds have, pretty much not plateaued, but they're working, like constantly. And when I don't take them, which it happens, sometimes, you're just staying up late or you're so invested in something that you're watching or doing that you forget to take them. You just do. And if I tend to forget more than once, I will start feeling it. So it's like, yep, she's the one that pointed it out and said, you got to do something about that.
That's amazing. Yeah, I
And
mean,
it's, and again, like that's why like your question, it's like even if we took it at, this the minimal part of she pointed it out that I should talk to somebody about these things. Because I
right.
just like fall into a rage and just like start like crying, like it just like everything would cease, like and she's the one
Yeah.
that's like, hey, that's not normal, like
Right,
and
right,
like to
right.
me, it's like I thought that was what being an artist was.
Yeah, no, totally, totally. No, I mean that's great to have and to have the support system, like
Yeah.
uh and of course you have some friends, but we're not living with you and you know
And you're lucky. But the thing is, it's like, whenever I have like really irrational fears about, you know, passing on during a surgery or something like that, I emailed my friends and go, here's my more or less my will. It's just like, and you've gotten these emails more than once. And it's like, here's the thing. You guys got to take care of Stray until my kids decide whether they not want it or not. And whatever, make sure my wife gets money, that and
yeah,
for the most part, it's a will, it's a living will, I guess. But
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
like anything. And it's just like six of my boys, and like they're my curators, I guess.
So sometimes
Cody,
I'll write something or
yeah,
finish something, but it hasn't come out, and I'll be like, I'll send it to a couple people as I'm getting on an airplane, just in
mm,
case.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You like do something or not with this or whatever. So I know what you mean. And yeah, I've gotten that email. Trying to think of there's a couple other things here. Well, I did want to talk about Florida.
Well,
I
the let's go back to that text that I sent you. It's
yes,
about
please.
the learning. Like no one will learn the way this man learned, and the tragedy is he'll never be able to teach those things. That's the real tragedy is like you can't hand that off. While I was doing the flats earlier before we went out for about an hour or so, I was showing Sadie how I was flatting, and I was like, a lot of people use a pen. I don't. I'm not comfortable with a pen, so I'm using my mouse. She's like, well, can't you just use the drop bucket? And I was like, no. And here's why. And I was showing her like it's on a different layer and stuff. And it's just like I've never learned how to color, like I'm just doing like a basic flatting technique that I learned. And so I'm teaching her something that she'll be able to use, because she's an artist. She likes drawing, she likes making comics and stuff. So it's just basically I'm teaching her the wrong way to do something, but it's going to like be functional. And then until she learns her way of
Con-
doing it.
conceptually,
Yeah.
you're giving her a tool, and then maybe in the future you could get her to do some flats
Yeah.
anyway, or full coloring, whatever,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So it's funny because like I'm coloring something right now, and I can't stand the color because I don't understand the spectrum of color,
Hmm.
and it's also my skill set is very limited when it comes to Photoshop, and I'm using an old Photoshop, kind of thing. So it's always a little bit of a struggle. And then, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to do something that looks like Marvel in the 1960s or early
Yeah.
70s anyway, so which is not in vogue. It looks retro in some ways.
It's weird because if you were to ask me, um, hey, here's a comic that's just flat colors and it was made by like Russ Kazmierzak. I don't care about colors enough to be like, well, that doesn't look real. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I don't
No,
care about real. Like I want a comic to be a comic. Like
it could be a comic book.
and
Exactly.
I owe it. And I said to Charlie, I was like, if I have my druthers, I will make um Golden Guard just all flats. Like just because that's the kind of it doesn't affect the story.
But I will tell you what the success of a limited palette with flat colors
Mhm.
is truly dependent on a thicker, bolder ink line.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of skinny, little scratchy, little nuance,
Mhm.
which begs for a nuance of colors.
Yeah.
Like that's my understanding is like when you take like I've seen this and I had an experience of telling an editor, don't do this, don't publish this, where they took an Alex Toth The Fox and they were
Mhm.
about to reprint it in a book that was in, and they had updated the colors where it was modeled all over the place on
Yeah,
an
that's
Alex
so
Toth drawing.
unnecessary.
It not only is unnecessary, it was gross.
Yeah.
And I was like, you can't publish that. You have to go back to the flat colors because that's was drawn in a certain way that's how you could employ the colors and the limited palette.
Mhm.
And so luckily this cover you're using, you can go as flat and minimal as you want
Yeah.
because it's just an arrangement of flat colors at that point, you
Yeah,
know?
there's another cover I have where it's for Strayed. Ray Anthony Hyatt had done it for me. And it was what issue was that? I forget the issue number. Let me
Do you
check.
have my cover that I did? Because again, I did my simple thing that I do,
Oh, for the Strayed trade paperback?
the trade,
Yeah, I
yeah.
do. Let me pull this
Just
up.
for the sake of showing people on getting them over to YouTube. Because it's funny, like I realized something recently that I know a lot of the stuff I've done, even though I still get surprised when somebody brings up me a comic to sign that I forgot that I drew or worked on. But like most people forget what you've done. And I'm a friend of mine is going to try and build a website for me where I'm going to highlight, oh, this is what I've done and this is what I'm doing now,
Yeah.
including like mentoring and teaching and stuff like that. So,
So as you can see,
oh
um,
boy, look at that.
Daredevil 232 homage, which is post Born Again. It's the Nuke issue, and Ray Anthony Hite did the homage cover. And what's funny is I was like, oh, do I go in here and like actually like mess with the colors? And I was like, no, that looks good. That looks like he's like got the fire.
Wait, time out. This is you colored this?
Yeah,
Oh, it's perfect.
yeah. Like there's really nothing you need to do.
Did he add the gray tone?
He might have.
I was gonna say
Um,
that it's key to like him popping on the flat yellow behind him in the
yeah,
fire.
like I don't know how I got lucky. Like it's just that I just laid that flat and then just went from
So
there.
I would this is the only thing if you had shown this to me, I would have considered the idea of popping the eye pupils white
On the background, on
in
the
the background, maybe, and then or maybe make the eyeballs, not the
yeah,
pupils, but the eyeballs white, kind of like next to it, right?
mhm,
The Mazzucchelli cover
yeah.
with Nuke, and then maybe that arrow on her face, maybe done
Oh,
something
that's
with
a
that,
that's a logo. Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
But otherwise, it still works the way it is.
Yeah,
So
like this is going to be, I think, issue 7, uh, whenever it comes out. But like,
oh,
yeah, I
really?
just like that's just flat colors, and like somehow it looks like that.
So this
Like,
hasn't been published yet.
not yet. Don't tell
Oh,
anybody. I'm kidding.
don't know, buddy.
Can you imagine?
Hey, I mean, you have so many ideas, and we joke about it all the time. You have a billion ideas, and it's just trying to get any of them out there. And like, I just think that the numbering system in our publishing plan as independent cartoonists is the big hurdle. It's like,
Yeah, I mean,
you
you're
know,
right. It's what is the biggest hurdle, I think, is not so much that. I think it's breaking habits that people have grown up with. Do you know what I mean?
hmm
Like if you're a th- this is a different conversation, obviously, because like you can say, well, the industry changes with each generation, and I can maybe point out that our industry hasn't changed that much from
hmm
from where we grew up. Like it's just
hmm
not. But the whole idea of breaking a habit that still exists on the part of the reader, of the audience, is it's a weird kind of backward thinking. It's almost gatekeeping, but not quite. Um, but it's a hard, like I said, it's a hard sell sometimes to do these things, to be innovative. Like, granted, like I was saying earlier, like you mentioned Marvel dropping the monthly, going towards trade paperback possibly. And I'm telling you, I had that idea 2 years ago, and it's
We all had that idea years ago,
right,
like the whole, how would you say I think Marvel and DC, nobody asked me. And maybe I'm wrong because they've proven that they can do 20 Batmans and 20 Spider-Mans. I just
right,
think do one monthly book each and have some team books, and then have that be your continuity editorial wise, and
right,
then give a lot of room to a Frank Miller or a Paul Pope or a Becky Cloonan or whoever, where you get their sense of, or a really great writer artist, or a writer and an artist that collaborate, that like are not continuity, and they just tell really interesting, fun stories. And then also have your bizarro strange tales where you get these alternative kids to do an alternative spin. And I feel like that would be my publishing plan. Now, would that sell? Would it be proven I was wrong? I don't know. You have to find out. I
right.
don't do this. But I do think, and now that the cost of paper has gotten worse, you know, I hesitate to go full digital myself, you know, and I know there's probably a lot of comic books I'm not reading because I can't afford them, so
Right.
I whittled it down. I mean, in a weird way, I will always buy Spider-Man and Fantastic Four. I'll buy the occasional Batman here and there, or an arc, or a collection, whatever, a story, and then something that's offbeat. But like, oh, there's my cover.
Mhm.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah, right. You should be
That's all
proud of
right.
that.
And I colored that one too.
Yeah, see,
All right.
and
I'm
there
okay
is
with it.
some like like it's not just flat. Like if you look at the grays and it's
Oh
and
yeah, I mean, what I do my trick is I do a flat, and then I do a shade, and I do a highlight. That's
Mhm.
basically what I'm doing. So,
Yeah, I'm
but
not doing
I was gonna say, um, Eric Larson's Savage Dragon hits all the sweet spots. It's goofy, it's sexy, it's got your fight scene. It's got weird characters engaging each other. I don't know. I never read Savage Dragon when it came out, but I feel like he only gets better as an artist the older he gets.
You know, it's funny because, like, I think at one point when Image started, and I don't know how involved you were in terms of buying Image books when they started and stuff, but when they first started, you were looking at like it. The way they marketed it was these are the stories that Marvel and DC wouldn't publish, and I don't think
Right.
that's obviously DC eventually published Wildcats, so that's not really true. Um, Spawn was a little bit different because it dealt with like um, a man being, reborn as a agent of the devil or something like that, because
Mhm.
he had a limited time. And like there was a couple of really cool tricks in that. Savage Dragon could have easily been a Marvel or DC book until, do you know what I mean? Like
Until,
until Eric probably got into his mind that number one, anybody that's reading this from day one to now has grown up. So now I can kind of like take some liberties with
yep.
storytelling. Number two, um, the absolute freedom that comes with knowing, oh, I don't have to worry about a comics code, standards and practices, uh, a parent company like Time Warner or Disney. Like I could
Right.
just do what I want to do, and that's I think where Eric's Savage Dragon succeeds. I don't know, like Shadowhawk had like an interesting concept, with a character that had HIV, but you could have done that at DC, like as a companion to Batman.
Sure. Or like Vertigo, maybe kind of, but with
Yeah,
Savage Dragon, the other thing I like about it in retrospect and why I like it now is because it feels like a 1980s comic book or a
yeah,
90s comic
totally.
book in some
But
way.
it
Like,
feels like a 1980s underground comic book that's almost poking fun at superheroes.
basically, like yeah, like a parody satire, but also an homage in
Yeah,
a way. You know, I just sent you something that'll be a sneak peek for the viewers that I don't know if I'm allowed to show it yet, but you can just pop it up for a minute. Speaking of Savage Dragon, Baltimore Comic Con does a thing for many years now where they celebrate an independent cartoonist, and this year they're celebrating Eric Larson. And as a guest, I get asked to, create a pinup. So I did a Savage Dragon, not versus the Red Hook, but like meets the Red Hook, a very simple pinup that I've sent to you that you can pop up and show our viewers. There it is.
there it is.
Simply pretty easy. I just want to have. I always think like, how would the Red Hook fight a guy like Savage Dragon? He would have to sneak attack him from behind. That's the only way, and then lose. Like
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it's like he gets
What
one good shove in, and that's about it.
what the it's funny, we were talking about coloring and like how um I think we could both cop to the fact that we don't neither one of us has any kind of expertise in color theory.
Not at all.
But
None. I got
when you
none.
look at this, it's so well balanced color wise.
Oh,
Like
thanks.
the red and the green and the blue, like it's very, and then like the neutral background.
Well,
Like,
I was worried that it would be like a Christmas tree a little bit, with the Red Hook
yeah,
and
I remember
Savage
you
Dragon's
saying that.
green. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh well, I'm going to put him in like Brando t-shirt and jeans,
Mm.
like, and then and I knew that I always like to do that little side corner where the title goes.
Mhm.
That's something I got from pulp magazines,
Mhm.
certain like lady magazine, like a woman on a swing, kind of thing. I forget what they were called, but they were just these fun old kind of pulp magazine treatments, as it
Mhm.
were, where they would take up that much space, or maybe even a little bit more, in the corner for the title, like Titter or something like that, like
Mhm.
something like naughty kind of
Yeah,
a
yeah, I know
thing.
what you mean.
So anyway, and then there's a blank space behind them.
Well, that's where you sign it.
Exactly.
Let me
Exactly.
ask you a question. It has nothing to do really with the image, but have you always, or have you ever been tempted? Let's do it that way. Have you ever been tempted to do the four fingers instead of five?
Uh, no, but I some half the time I mess up the thing.
Mm-hmm. Because
Yeah,
I mean, I know that that's a convention in cartoons, not necessarily cartooning and
right.
comic books. But I was looking at Savage Dragon's hands in that picture, and like they're so much bigger than the red hooks, and I'm like, he probably could have gotten away with doing four fingers instead of five. But I was like, but then it wouldn't be accurate.
It
And then,
wouldn't be accurate, but also sometimes you're hiding a pinky, so it looks like
Mhm.
four fingers, or
Yeah.
the thumb on the other. If you're flipping it the other way, sometimes it depends. Like, I'm just doing it right now in the
Mhm.
in the viewer. Like you can only have four fingers at a time,
You
or
can't
you
see the
pop up a
thumb.
thumb,
Mhm.
or I do a thumb like that, like just a hint at a thumb or in between the fingers. And sometimes you want to hide that because it looks better if you just have the four.
Yeah.
It really depends. So,
The other thing that pointed at that I really uh, that pops out at me with that pinup is I love that Red Hook has the taped up hands because it's very Wildcat, which
oh
is one
yeah,
of my favorite characters. Which
yep.
you guys, I didn't bring it with me. I planned on revealing it on the show. It's back home. I got it before I left, and I was going to reveal it during the Dirk Manning interview, but we had there was really no gaps in our interview. So I wanted to show it on the show, but I will show it. I think next week I'll be home in time for the show, so I'll show it then. But I thank Dean, obviously, and I'll thank him again because it's brilliant. And
Oh,
like it's man, it's so weird to say someone was made to work on this character. And I know Neil, Clyde, and I both have this kind of like Wildcat, not fetish, but like we both agree that if we were to work on Wildcat, the only artist we could work with would be you. And it's weird because it's like, man, you really are built for that character. Like, I mean, personality wise, art wise, like you're naturally gifted with that character
oh, thank
and
you, thank
characters
you.
like that. So that's why the Red Hook works so well
Right,
because
right.
I can't say that the Red Hook um, is your version of Wildcat. Like I can't say that like
No. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
definitively, but you can see a lot of Wildcat in the Red Hook, a lot of Toth and Erwin Hasen uh,
Right.
aspects of that character in your character. So, I mean, that's why that card that you sent me is like so kind of I'll say special, like not just to me, but just special, is that it is an artist doing a character that is so tailored to their gift, if
Well,
that
thank
makes
you. Thank you. I mean, that's so funny. I never thought about like another creator's creation. Well, I understand being the custodian of another
sense.
person, like with the fox or,
Yeah,
the little here and there. Uh, when you even when you do one issue or 8 pages or something, you feel like you're a custodian for a minute. But uh, yeah, to be suited for something, it's just like-minded at that point, right? Like,
yeah.
or it shows up. And we'll put it this way: I would never say Wildcat ever influenced my work. Um, I always state what influences me, like a Jack Kirby, or when I was younger, it'd be more like a John Byrne or George
Yeah, yeah.
Perez or whatever, Ron Wilson, and Joe Staton and stuff like that, like CC Beck, and of course Frank Miller, Howard Chaykin, Walt Simonson, but like, but to have a character that suits you,
Mhm.
that's interesting, so just like for you, it's probably Nightwing, because you're
Yeah,
doing your
absolutely.
analog with Stray type thing,
Like,
so
it was funny. 2 days ago, we were going to the beach, and I had to run into CVS, and I was wearing a Black Panther t-shirt. And the kid at the counter goes, "Do you like Spawn?" I was like, "He's all right, like yeah, I like him." He goes, "Who are your top three favorite superheroes?" I was like, I wanted to say Stray, but I'm like, I don't want to like, I
yeah,
could and like
you have to
sort of,
explain it. Yeah.
yeah, but like, I was like, I want to get this out of here and like get on with my life. And I was like, Nightwing, Daredevil, and then I was like, ooh, who's the third one? Now, obviously,
Hmm.
it's Stray, but like, I was like, probably Captain America, and he's like, oh,
Right.
and I'm like, what did I disappoint you? Like, what happened? You were so interested in talking to me, and then you just like dismissed me. But
Oh my
it's
God.
funny about Wildcat that how many people look at Stray and they go, like, oh, I can see how like he's like Wildcat to you. And I'm like, there's actually a character in Golden Guard that's more Wildcat than Stray. But I can see that. I can see
Okay.
the connection between the two. But Stray is clearly, you know, Daredevil with sight or Nightwing with a dog fetish.
Right. 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 Although you say Golden Guard, who's the character that Kirby did that was gold, blue and gold
Oh,
looking
the
guy?
Guardian.
The Guardian. I feel like you could do a great Guardian,
I think, in
And I've
talking
drawn them
about,
both. I've drawn them in a Neil Clyde
yeah,
story.
in that Superman story.
Yep.
I think that in terms of being suited for a character, I think Nightwing or Dick Grayson as Robin, the way Wade does him in Batman and Robin and World's Finest, would probably be in my wheelhouse. Or Nightwing as he is now, maybe more influenced by Marv and George's work, Marv Wolfman, George Perez. Um, but the thing that I think recommends me for a Wildcat or makes him suited to me is I had a period where I was boxing, in college, and my stepfather, who passed away a couple of years ago, I've never met somebody that was more Wildcat in my life, like that
Mm.
personality that Ted had, where like his hands were rough, like and like I remember he had huge thumbs, just like these
Mhm.
mitts,
Mhm.
and he came from Brooklyn, and he came from probably um, like a lower class neighborhood, kind of thing. Involved in the mafia, probably, maybe tangentially. He was
Mhm.
in construction, so he had to have dealt with it at some point.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
like, I think being around him, I absorbed a little bit of who he was, and that informs who Wildcat is. When I wrote my Wildcat story for JSA Classified, don't worry, you didn't miss it. It never got published. But
Mhm. Mhm.
when I wrote that
But it was
story,
drawn, right?
it was the cover was drawn.
Got it.
No, because it was going to be Eric White doing the cover,
Right. Right.
um, and then Eric was like, maybe I can, because he had a deal with somebody else, like I think Tokyo Pop to do a graphic novel. He's like, maybe I'll do layouts and I'll get Michael Cho to do the inks. And I'm like, Jesus, dude, you're really coming out hitting.
That'd be
And
amazing.
but yeah, like I think my stepdad informed that characterization of Wildcat. Um,
Hmm.
I don't, I'd say this with love to Neil. I don't know that he has that kind of pull, like that kind of like a person in his life or background that had that kind of like personality.
Oh,
Um,
I don't know. Yeah, I
it's hard
mean,
to say, but the thing about Neil is Neil's a good writer. I'm sure he could make up, what he doesn't know. So, me
oh,
writing,
he's a really good writer, and like, but you both you guys, I did. It sucks that you don't have regular books at the top two franchises, but
yeah.
then again, you're doing your stuff anyway.
Yeah, and
But
that's
to
why
have
when Neil
like
was
that
on the
official,
show, when Neil was on our show, I was like, "Are you ever going to do like a superhero?" Because he does fantasy, he does crime books, like self-published or through I think Comicsology Originals was one of them. And I'm like, are you ever going to do a superhero? Like, why not? Like, you have,
oh, we developed a pitch recently that spoiler has to do with Wildcat's son, let's
Mhm.
just say,
Yeah,
and teenagers, like a YA thing, right? And then we're gonna send out and see if anybody responds and see what happens. But I know that he has always wanted to do Ragman,
yes.
Jewish character. He's Jewish. He
He
wants
also
to
loves
do a
Jack of
spin on
Hearts
it.
from Marvel.
And then we had a we
Yeah,
actually
you
had
did
a
that with him.
green
That's
light.
right.
It was greenlit to do Jack of Hearts plus I know Thanos was in it. I feel like Ant-Man might have been in it and possibly Iron Man. And it was I forget the story right now, but it was basically like uh what's the one where Raquel Welch and a bunch of people become small and go in a submarine and go into a person's body?
Oh, that's
Not Voyage to
Fantastic
something.
Voyage.
Fantastic Voyage. And it was going to be that kind of a story. And it would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, like he's like I said, I don't he can kind of opine and tell a good yarn. You know what I mean? Where I
Absolutely.
like I said, like I might have like the experience of being around somebody like that, but he
Yeah,
can
yeah,
pick
yeah.
it all up. Like Neil's really good at that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I haven't we talked about doing something coming up at some point soon, like Wildcat inspired?
Yeah, we were talking about Absolute Wildcat, and like I
No,
think
no, but I meant Matt Major wanted us to do something.
oh yes, that's right. We'd have to talk about that.
We're gonna have to talk about it. We not
Yeah,
now, but yeah.
yeah,
Or hell, we develop it on live on
yeah. Why not?
podcasts. So
So let's get to
um
let's get to some bad news.
well before we get okay, let's do that. And then I want to talk about Florida and a couple other
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
So I this happens often these days, actually, which is sad. I was on Facebook for a little while hanging with my mom, and it said that there were a lot of people saying that Tommy Lombardozzi died. I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, this is not possible. Like he's young. I mean, yes, of course you can die young, but he was such a big personality and so many like he had just interviewed Frank Miller, which I helped hook up for the Jack Kirby podcast with Mike D, his buddy and partner in crime and best friend. And like what a week later he's gone. Like like I still am processing. I can't believe it. And this is add this to the list of other people I can't believe have passed away. Young or old. And so Tommy Lombardozzi and his buddy Mike D did the Jack Kirby podcast, which I was on like I want to say 5 to 7 times or something. Whenever I need to promote something, they always had me on. We would talk about Jack Kirby or a specific Jack Kirby comic book. They talk like Goombas. These guys, they sound like they belong. They're veterans of the Yancey Street Gang.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jack Kirby, they're lovely people. Last time I saw Tommy was at the Jack Kirby street naming in the Lower East Side, And in fact, I had invited him and Mike D, and I think another pal of theirs, to go eat at El Castillo de Agua, which was where I was going to grab some grub, and with Pat Palermo. And they were going to go do another Kirby thing that was at like a gallery or a museum or something, and then go. I don't think they went to the Society of Illustrators thing later that night. But like, and also he was a musician, an artist. He helped out with this theater, Brooklyn One Productions, right next to St. Mark's Comics,
Yeah.
constantly being involved, throwing art gallery shows, invited me and Jen. We showed some stuff there. Like this guy was, a Renaissance man and a sweetheart of a guy. And he passed away because of health issues, you know? And yeah, he was a big guy. So you gotta be careful. But skinny people die too. Like people who are healthy die too.
It
So
kills me that he was a year, maybe a year and a half away from reaching 50. Like he like not even 50 years old. But the thing that I was thinking about, especially while you were, talking about her and stuff, was that for somebody that dove into Kirby weekly, um, made an entire podcast that over how many episodes? Like it's almost two,
Frank Miller was 325, episode
over
325,
300 episodes just talking about Jack Kirby.
and a daily Instagram
He
celebrating Jack Kirby.
he must have, and I say this with as much affection as I can say it, he must have died happy being that he was at that street naming ceremony. Do you know what I mean? Like,
It's weird that you say that because I was trying to like put it together, and I was like, he was at the street naming. He was a part of that whole thing.
mhm.
He Randolph Hopp, who runs the Jack Kirby Museum, has done stuff in conjunction with those guys. Uh, I ran into Selene, who's Frank Miller's right hand lady, and hooked him up to do a podcast. You know, they do the podcast. I mean, there's some things that Mike D told me, like the day of the podcast, he wasn't feeling so well. And Mike D was like, well, we can postpone it, we'll do it another time. He's like, no, we got to do it. And if you listen to the podcast, Mike D says he's a little off, and it's it's a little bit, but whatever. It's conversational. And then he basically took himself to a hospital that night, and had to deal with some kidney stuff. And he went home and he went to bed and he never woke up, you know. And it's tragic. It's super sad. I I can't believe it, but what's wonderful, and I guess this is something we never get to know when we pass away, is that the amount of people that showed up, at least online,
Yeah.
and actually in person. Mike D said that the house is filled with people, and I just got funeral information. I'm going to try to swing by. It's happening on Sunday, the day before we post this episode. And it's just like it, it's so sad that he died, but he was so alive and did so
Yeah.
much. Was always encouraging people and coming up with ideas to collect. I actually this is going to sound corny maybe, but I texted Kazra Gambari, the who is like the showrunner of IC3 and First Coast
Oh, yeah,
Comic
yeah, yeah.
Con, the Jack Kirby, the Rosin Jack Kirby Awards.
Mhm.
And I wrote him, he hasn't responded yet. And I don't know if I said it right. I said, a new Kirby Award, the Tommy Lombardozzi for excellence in building comics community.
That's
You
great.
know, I mean, and in a way, that's what Kirby has done with his work and his life,
Mhm.
like inadvertently, like a lot of people meet because of Kirby and hang out because of Kirby, so, and
It's
Tommy was
a
one of those guys,
it's a crazy industry because unlike film and unlike the music industry, comics really fosters communities. Do you know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
it doesn't really there's competition, there's publishers that have rivalries and stuff like that. Uh for many years, so many people tried to fight to be number three, like, and regardless of that, you can still see community building. You know, Ron Hill from Jim Hanley's JHU Comics, excuse me, he posted these pictures of Jim Lee doing his first, I think it was first Wildcat signing or like on that first tour. And it was just something like I was just
By
flipping
the way,
through.
you said Wildcat. So
Oh,
Wildcats,
Wildcats, excuse me.
and I think it stood for something. I don't remember. Anyway,
Covert action team. So
okay.
so Jim was doing his first signing, and he's so young in this thing, and these pictures, and I'm flipping through, and I'm looking at the people, not just Jim, but the people, and I'm like, there's not one similar face among these people. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's like they all came together, they all stood in
Yeah,
line, they all like, wanted to see their favorite artist, and
yeah.
that's a wonderful thing, man. And I think that's the testament of Tommy in that I never met him. Um, if I had, it might have been super brief and probably neither one of us remembered. But just via the podcast, his absolute, I don't want to say dedication, but his affinity and his love for the material and for that community building was evident. And that's when you know you have a loss. You know what I mean? Like, not that anyone could take his place, but there's an absence. Like, there's a little Tommy shaped hole somewhere, like that. A similar thing happened years ago with Jamie from, I think, Comic Geek Speak. Like, it's just like, and then the guy who runs, oh, I forget the YouTube channel, like there's like Comics Historian or something like that. When he passed away, you could also see like these pockets of like emptiness where this person was. We can say it again, our buddy Eddie, you
Ed
know,
Piscor.
like built up like a community with Jim on their podcast, and that podcast doesn't exist anymore. That's freaking
Well, and there's a giant size hole there. It's funny, like we can transition to Florida, and I could talk about
Mhm.
Jim Rugg and
Yeah,
about a
yeah.
conversation I had with him. But yeah, with Tommy, like a community leader, a community builder, he drew me a red hook. He drew the red hook and
Mm.
mailed it to me. And he was suffering like an artist like we do, like trying to make ends meet,
Yeah.
juggling all these different things, but still, was out there bringing people together all the time. And I feel really bad, obviously, for his family and friends, but especially Mike D.
Yeah.
So I talked to Mike D, and I don't know what the future for the Jack Kirby podcast is. Obviously, we're probably going to do an episode where everyone talks about Tommy, and then will there be more? That's up to Mike D. Like
Mhm.
to have 325 episodes is profound. It's amazing, on a regular.
And
So
it'll live on the internet forever.
exactly. So, but then talking to, like you said, Ed Piscor and Jim Rugg had the cartoonist kayfabe show, and that stopped when Ed Piscor died. In fact, I think the family's involved in it, and however they might try to monetize it or archive it or whatever. Uh, pro- no one has returned to it. Jim Rugg has not returned to it. But I hung out with Jim Rugg a bunch at IC3 in Jacksonville, Independent Creator Comic Con, and they're like have several shows bouncing all over the place. And I believe First Coast Comic Con may have bought IC3 or
Hmm.
their allies or something. So it was like a two-pronged show, like
Yeah, yeah.
IC3 slash First Coast Comic Con and all the other affiliates that come along with it. I was
Yeah.
joking that there's so many logos, like um but Jim Rugg was one of the special guests, as was I, and gratefully. And it was so good to hang out with Jim. I mean, I remember Jim early days, Street Angel, and doing a Billy Dogma Street Angel pinup for him. And he crashed my house one time in Brooklyn while I was away. I gave him the keys of the house he was with another artist. And we've just known each other over the years. And I kind of asked him, I said, do you miss doing podcasting? And he said, yes and no, but, and maybe the no was because of what came with the responsibility of a cartoonist kayfabe.
Mhm.
But he does want to do a different one, and whether that's him going solo or doing it with somebody, you know, and who knows. But so I think it's percolating. I think he
Mhm.
does want to come back
That's good.
and do that. So and then we talked about other things. We're talking about auto fiction, which is formerly known as speculative memoir,
Mhm.
and I was trying to encourage him to play with that idea, you know, conceptually, to do things that, you know, maybe he hasn't done before. He was really intrigued by that. Yeah, we had a really good time, and again, IC3 in Jacksonville was a lot of fun. I'm a city boy, so I'm used to either biking, walking, or taking a subway or a bus to the next thing. You know, you got to drive everywhere
Yeah.
outside New York City. So
Yeah.
you're driving and you're going to the depths of some highway over there into a fairground that's empty, to a warehouse, where inside the warehouse, at least at IC3 Jacksonville, the first half was basically retailers selling like old Spider-Mans and Batmans and every Marvel DC comic ever made, plus, you know, $2 and $1 comics. And then the other half was like mooks like us who are like trying to hawk our own wares. Like I could see not getting past,
Yeah.
you know, a Teen Titan or Justice League or whatever Avengers comic, you know, and going, what the hell's over there? You know, like
Yeah.
who are you people? But it was in conjunction. I mean, that's how it was set up, and we had a really fun night the night before doing a drink and draw at a really cool bar.
I saw you hanging
Uh,
out with our buddy James Green.
James Green was my man the whole time. Like
Yeah.
he was my right hand man, and I got to meet his lovely wife and one of her children, and they were totally cool. Erica's great. She brought me a big old bag of lunch, you know, like all kinds of. And then and James is just, he's kind of like, he's a librarian as well as a cartoonist, so like everybody knows James Green, you know, like he was kind of like an ambassador of independent comics and zines and that kind of stuff. And you know, I met him when I was a master artist at the Atlantic Center for the Arts, and he came and I helped mentor him, as it were. And then 10 years later, I did it again, and he returned
Hmm.
along with Russ. You know, and that's where I met Russ
Yeah.
Kesmuzak and other people, obviously. Krista Casano, I met in 2012 at the Atlantic Center for the Arts, who would become a great friend and a studio mate. Anyway, so yeah, James Green drove me everywhere. He took me to a comic shop called Black Cat Comics, which was a lot of fun.
I saw that
Right,
video. There's a
bumped into
video of
other
DINO.
artists. Yeah, there's me talking. We're talking about Sal Buscema, but it was like
Yes.
in the middle of a conversation. And then there was like another video I meant to put up, but James Green was just being, you know, taking candid videos and pictures, and thankfully, because I get to have these, you know, moments, you know.
Mhm.
And then there was like an after party I went to, but man, it's hot out there,
Yeah, man.
and then it's always raining in the middle of the day. I'm like, with thunder and lightning, it's crazy. I did pick up a comic book. I got some comics at IC3, but I did pick up a comic at Black Cat Comics. It was Commandy number 50,
You
written
have
by
it?
Denny O'Neil. No,
Oh,
I don't.
hey.
And it's the issue where Commandy becomes OMAC, and it's officially sanctioned that I think Commandy is OMAC's grandfather, or is it
Buddy
the other way
Blank's
around?
grandfather?
Huh?
I think it's the other way around.
That OMAC is, oh
Commandy.
yeah, OMAC's older.
Yeah.
OMAC is Commandy's grandfather.
Right.
That's right. So that was the issue that officially stated that. So
Who drew
that
that?
was fun.
That wasn't a
You
Kirby
know,
draw issue, right?
it was not because Kirby had left in the 30s,
Yeah.
and then they continued the series without him. And I'm trying to, I don't think it was Jim Starlin. I feel like, who was it? I'm sure we can look it up.
Yeah.
But
I'll look it up
yeah,
later.
yeah, I
While you
don't
think.
remember right now. But I remember thinking Denny O'Neil writing Commandy and then writing that story. Interesting. So and then my friend Drew Marone, one of my best oldest friends these days, who lives like 7 minutes from my mother in Flagler Beach, drove to Jacksonville, picked me up, took me back, where I got to hang out with Drew and his wife Valerie, who's also an old friend of mine, who's awesome. And like I hung out with my mom, you know, went to the beach a few times where I got sunburned. That's the cover.
Can you
It's
guys
such a goofy cover too.
Well,
Does it
he's
say who
got the.
drew it?
I'm about to get to that. I
Yeah,
just want to
Kamandi
make
has a
sure.
blonde mohawk.
Yeah. Cover
Oh,
artist was Rich Buckler and Alfredo Alcala. The
yep.
penciler, Dick Ayers.
Dick Ayers. That's right. That's
That's
right.
crazy.
I know. I know. Denny O'Neil,
That's
Dick Ayers
insane.
doing Kamandi.
Yeah.
Like, come on. But yeah, hung up my mom, and I'm trying to think, what did we do? We watched a movie, Crime 101.
Oh, that's is that Chris
That's Thor,
yeah, Chris Hemsworth.
Catwoman, Halle Berry.
Yeah,
Wait, did Halle Berry play Catwoman?
she did.
Yeah, so Thor, Catwoman, and the Hulk.
Ruffalo.
Yeah.
That guy gets work, man.
Oh, by the way, Ruffalo, he's entered a phase where he's all like hunched over and just scruffy looking.
He's so
I'm
weird.
telling you, he should do a reboot of
Of
Columbo.
Columbo. Yeah,
Absolutely. Anyway, it was good. It was well made, but also like, okay, whatever. And then because I sometimes write what movies I watch. Oh, last night Jen wanted to just watch something kind of like a crime thing, and she was like, "What's on Netflix?" So we watched something called Dead Man's Wire. Have you heard of this?
no.
So it's based on a true story, I think, in the 1970s, where a guy was really frustrated by a loan company that ripped him off, and he basically kidnapped the president of the company and like wired a shotgun to the back of his head that was also connected to him. So like any sudden move and the guy's head would blow off, kind of thing. And that was part of the crime, obviously. And like, he wanted the newspapers and the news and even the local DJ to like expose this company for ripping him off, kind of thing. And so it was an interesting story. It's directed by Gus Van Sant. And I like Gus Van Sant, but I kept thinking this should have been directed by Spike Lee.
Huh.
It needed the Spike Lee energy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
because Gus Van Sant kind of is tepid sometimes in his directing style, and this felt a little tepid to me.
This was a film. It wasn't like a
A
documentary.
movie, a feature film. Yeah,
Okay.
it's like on Netflix and it's like recent. Dead Man's Wire, and trying to think if there's anything else to talk about my mom. I mean, it was good to see my mom, obviously, and what else? I wish I could spend more time with her, because we're so far apart. Trying to think what else we did. Like, it's weird to go to Florida and just chill out. You know,
What's funny is like we've been up here since last Thursday,
up
and
here being in New York.
up in Long Island, and
Long Island.
no, not last Thursday. I'm sorry, last Friday night, and Sadie kind of just took over. Like, oh, we're doing this today. She made like an itinerary. It's like, all right, guess I don't have to think,
I mean, right?
So
And we're so used to like having our routines. Like, you have a job to go to.
yeah,
You're trying to write this or color that, whatever, the comic stuff, everything that and the minute you take that away from me, I'm like, I don't know who I am and what to do. I mean, in fact, my mother kind of messed up. She was like, go to the beach. And like, I was like, okay. And I'll go stare at the water and like be around nature, and people in bathing suits. And I was like, it occurred to me, and I never do this. I was like, you know what, Mom, let me get some suntan lotion because I'm going to burn because I don't like to wear stuff and there's no umbrella and I'm going to sit in a chair.
Forgot about this story.
Dude, like, so she tries to find something and she hands me a bottle and the number 4 is on it. I'm like, 4? I thought these things started at 30, like, and they just go up to like 90 or beyond. And she was like, no, that should work. I was like, okay. And I go there and I'm putting it on my body and I'm like, am I oiling myself? Like, what? And so I immediately start burning, and I could show you right now. I don't know if this is well lit enough, but I start to feel like the burn. I'm like, I'm gonna go in the ocean. I come back out, I'm drying off, and I start to feel the burn again. So I put the towel on me. I'm wearing a hat and glasses. I look like one of those people that shouldn't be on a beach, at one point. So I'm like,
the best part about this story. Oh wait,
yeah, well,
you haven't gotten to the punchline. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, all right. And then I feel it again. So I keep applying this stuff on me. And finally, I'm like, I got to go. right? So I leave, I get back in the car, I'm a lobster. I've been in the sun for 2.5 hours. And Verna comes by, and she looks at the bottle and said, "This is tanning lotion. This is supposed to tan you. This isn't protecting you. This is like basically I was basting myself to be grilled, you know?" And my mother looks at me because I take off and I'm like, I'm so hot that Verna's getting like putting cold presses on me and stuff,
Mhm.
right? And my mother looks at me, she goes, "You look so handsome. You're my beautiful little boy."
She was, so I'm on the phone with Dean. Understand? And Dean is telling me this story over the phone, and his mom's driving, and she goes, "You look like a movie star." That's
Like a movie.
amazing.
I said, "Mom, what are you into burn victims? Like that's what I look like." Anyway,
All right, I'm
uh,
going to share one last piece of news because it's time to eat. I've
okay.
been given the signal. Yesterday, 11:16 a.m. from Steve Walker, I got a text and it says, as of 11 a.m. today, all interior pages are up on the Dropbox. Pay the Devil is just got to be lettered and then printed.
Awesome.
So there you go.
Fantastic. I love it. And let me just end with two quick things. There's a new Kickstarter out right now, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes,
Mhm.
by Panic Press or Panic Publishing or whatever. That if it reaches a certain goal, they'll be able to afford me to write and draw a story that I pitched for
Hey,
their anthology. And speaking of what do you call it? Kickstarters, our book, Real Life Comics Only in New York, uh, is going to be coming out in comic shops, I believe, at the end of September. But the
hey,
final order cutoff is, I believe, August 12th. So please let your retailers know that you'd like a bunch of copies for them to
especially if
order.
you're in New York. My goodness, every
Oh, absolutely. And then finally, I just want to recommend this incredible book, Vito.
Hmm,
It's called Gowanus Crossing. Whitney got it for, well, Whitney bought it for herself and kept saying, "Oh my God, Dean, you have to read this. You have to
how
read
about
this."
that?
It all takes place like in 1950s, 60s, 70s. Gowanus. The guy lives on Carroll Street and he's talking about all the neighborhood and his name is Vincent Coppola. Gowanus Crossing. Every chapter is gold.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's some bleak stuff and there's some very powerful stuff. It's an incredible book so far. So
So here we go. We're going to do our closing montage here, I guess. Links down below. You can order a t-shirt, which helps benefit the show. You can give us a donation, helps benefit the show. The Stray Kickstarter is now officially closed. No more late pledges because we are now starting the um, fulfillment portion of the Kickstarter. But stay tuned. There will be a new Stray Kickstarter, hopefully starting next week. I just have to get it approved, and I got to finish this cover so I can put it on there. And that'll be for the Beast Within, which we hope to have ready and done in August, ready for Baltimore Comic Con, which both Dean and I will both be at. You can get tickets down below. There's a link for you there. You can follow Dean on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram. Dean is pretty much Dean Haspel everywhere. I'm Incognito. That's pretty easy.
Substack, that kind of stuff.
Substack, everything. So thank you everyone for 79 wonderful episodes. Next week we crack 80.
Oh boy.
All right. Have a good day,
See you then,
everybody.
guys.